First, you choose a partner. Next, you choose a genome. Are we okay with this? Is it even possible? This is FC Explains. Let's start at the beginning, the very beginning, embryos. Some genomics startups say that advanced screening before babies are born can produce healthier children. They see this as a potentially transformational form of preventative medicine that allows parents to select the healthiest babies possible. I dug into this quickly growing field to find out whether their claims are valid and why not everyone is excited about it. Here's how the process works at Orchid, which was founded in 2019 and has evaluated thousands of embryos at a cost of $2,500 each. First, the embryos are biopsied at IVF clinics, removing 4 to 6 cells. Then, Orchid's labs amplify the DNA found within those cells. The resulting genomic data is sequenced and analyzed. Customers receive a tastefully designed report for each prospective child. Because Orchid sequences an embryo's whole genome, customers can sideline embryos with chromosomal abnormalities, as well as rare monogenic conditions. For example, Orchid says it can identify typos in over 200 genes known to be associated with neurodevelopmental disorders like autism. Orchid also generates risk scores for a dozen genetically complex or polygenic diseases, including breast cancer and schizophrenia. IVF clinics already evaluate embryos for number and quality of cells. Sometimes they perform a genetic test known as a PGTA that can detect diseases like Down syndrome, which is caused by an extra copy of chromosome 21. Orchid goes further, both by scanning for even the rarest of monogenic conditions and by using statistical techniques to generate those risk scores. But risk scores can be misleading. The diseases they are designed to assess, like hypertension, are influenced by behavior and environment, as well as genetics. Having a lower risk of something like hypertension doesn't mean an embryo won't grow up to develop it anyway. Plus, companies like Orchid don't do a very good job of translating their risk scores into real-world values. They might tell you that one embryo looks smarter than another in terms of its likely educational attainment, but fail to mention that the difference in scores translates into just a few months of school. Orchid's founder, Noor Siddiqui, is undeterred by these concerns. It's become a polarizing idea. Some early adopters are all for it, but others are sounding the alarm. One concern is access, due to embryo screening's high cost. Even IVF, which has been around for decades now, is only covered by insurance in some states. Couples looking to screen their embryos have to pay out of pocket. Consequently, the process rewards couples with the means to produce a multitude of embryos. One of Orchid's customers told Fast Company that he and his wife spent more than $25,000 on top of IVF costs to screen their embryos with Orchid's technology. They were concerned about miscarriage and a family history of Alzheimer's. But more than that, this customer saw embryo screening as an important way to provide the best life possible for his kids, similar to sending them to the best schools. Siddiqui echoes that view. She told me that to her, old-fashioned conception is the equivalent of, quote, rolling the dice. She also talked about how hard it was to watch her mother slowly become blind due to a genomic disease. She doesn't want her own children to suffer the same way. Her ideas are winning her fans in Silicon Valley. Orchid has raised $12 million from investors like 23andMe founder Anne Wojcicki, Coinbase founder Brian Armstrong, and Ben Lamb, co-founder of the startup Colossal Biosciences, best known for reviving extinct dire wolves. Orchid is primarily focused on preventing disease, but other companies in the field say they are taking the technology even further. The founder of Nucleus, an Orchid competitor, said on a podcast that he believes couples should be able to access information on traits like height, hair color, and eye color, along with risks like potential alcohol dependency. Not everyone was impressed. The traits he mentioned are polygenic, and researchers say that accurately predicting them is fraught with challenges. One statistical geneticist, an associate professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School, called the practice of assigning embryos polygenic risk scores modern snake oil. One paper published in the New England Journal of Medicine called it an unproved, societally risky service that requires an urgent society-wide conversation. Anyone who has watched a friend or family member grapple with genetic disease will be sympathetic to Orchid's mission. Anyone who has watched Gattaca and listened to Nucleus's grand declarations will wonder if we are on the verge of a world dominated by designer babies.